Okay, back again for the Tantra experiences, discourses on the Royal Song of Sahara. Okay, let us continue. Part 6. Oh, 50 minutes. Okay, take a breath. Now we enter into this great pilgrimage, the Royal Song of Sahara. It is called the Song on Human Action. Every paradoxical because it has nothing to do with action. That's why it is so called the Song on Human Action. It has nothing to do with the being, but when the being is transformed, action is transformed. When you are transformed, your behavior is transformed, not vice versa. Not that the first you change your action and then your being changes. No, Tantra says first change your being, then change your action. Change is automatically, of its own accord. First attain to a different kind of consciousness, and that will be followed by a different kind of action, character and behavior. Tantra believes in being, not in action and character. That's why it is also called the Song on Human Action, because once being is transformed, your action are transformed. That is the only way to change your action. Who has ever been able to change his actions directly? You can only pretend. If you have anger in you and you want to change your actions, what will you do? You will suppress the anger and you will show a false face. You will have to wear a mask. If you have sexuality in you, what will you do to change it? You can take the vow of celibacy, of Brahmachara, and you can pretend, but deep down the volcano contains. You are sitting on a volcano which can erupt any moment. You will be constantly trembling, constantly afraid and fear. Have you not watched the so-called religious people? They are always afraid of hell, and always trying somehow to get into heaven. But they don't know what heaven is. They have not tasted it at all. If you change your consciousness, heaven comes in you, not that you go to heaven. Nobody has ever gone to heaven, and nobody has ever gone to hell. Let it be decided once and for all. Heaven comes to you, hell comes to you. It depends on you. Whatsoever you call it comes. If your being changes, you suddenly become available to heaven. Heaven descends on you. If you ever does not change, you are as in a conflict. You are forcing something which is not there. You become false and more false. And you become two persons. You become schizophrenic, split. You show something, you are something else. You say something, you never do it. You do something else. And then you are continuously playing hide and seek with yourself. Anxiety, anguish are natural in such a state. That's what hell is. Now the song. I have down to nobleman is hidden. I have down to from who has conquered the finite. The words Mangusari has to be understood. Mangusari was one of the disciples of Buddha, but he was also a very rare disciple. Buddha has many rare disciples in different ways. They were rare. Marcus was rare because he could understand the message, not delivered in words, and so on and so forth. Mangusari was rare because he had the greater quality of being a master. Whenever somebody was too much of a difficult problem, somebody was a problematic person, Buddha would send him to Mangusari. Just the name of Mangusari and people would start trembling. He was really a hard man. He was really drastic. Whenever somebody was sent to Mangusari, the disciples would say, that person has gone to Mangusari's court. It has become famous down the ages, the sword of Mangusari, because Mangusari used to cut the head in one stroke. He was not a slow goer. He would simply cut the head in one stroke. His compassion was so great that he could be so cruel. So by and by the name of Mangusari became a representative name, a name for all masters because they are all compassionate. and they all have to be cruel. Compassionate because they will give birth to a new man and new. Cruel because they will have to destroy and demolish the old. So when Sahara bows down first before starting his song, he says, I bow down to noble Mangusari, the master of all masters. I bow down to him who has conquered the finite. But then he bows down to Buddha, who has conquered the finite and who has become the infinite. As calm water lashed by wind turns into waves and rollers, so the king thinks of Sara in many ways, although one man. Visualize a lake, a placid, silent lake with no waves. Then there comes a great wind, and it starts playing on the surface of the lake. And the lake is disturbed, and 1,001 ripples and waves arise. Just a moment before the reflection of the full moon is there in the lake. Now it is no longer there. Now the moon is still reflected, but in 1,001 fragments. It is all over the lake. The whole lake is silvery because of the reflection, but you cannot catch hold of the real reflection, with the moon and how it looks. It is all distorted. Sahara says this is the situation of the worldly mind, of the deluded. This is the only difference between a Buddha and a non-Buddha. A Buddha is one whose wind is no more blowing, then wind is called Krishna, desire. Have you ever watched, observed? Whenever there is desire, there are 1,001 ripples in your heart. Your consciousness is disturbed and distracted. Whenever desire stops, you are at ease, at peace with yourself. So desire is the wind that distorts the mind, and when the mind is distorted, you cannot reflect the reality. Turns into waves and rollers, so the king thinks of Sahara in many ways, although one man. Sahara says two things. First he says, your mind is too disturbed by the rumors. So much wind has blown over the surface of your mind. You will not be able to see me, though I am one. But your mind is reflecting me in 1,000 fragments. This was true. He could see through and through the king. The king was puzzled. On one hand he respected the young man. On one hand he had always trusted the young man. He knew that he could not be wrong. But so many people, so many so-called honest, respectful people, rich, learned, came to him, and they all reported he has gone wrong. He has become almost mad. He is a maniac. He is a pervert. He lives with an Arrowsmith woman of low caste. He lives in a cremation ground. This is not a place to live. He has forgotten all old rituals. He no longer reads the Vedas. He no longer chants the name of God. He is not even heard to meditate, and he is indulging in strange and ugly, shameful practices. Tantra looks shameful to people who are not very much who are very much sexually repressed. They cannot understand because of their repressions. They cannot understand what is happening. So all these things are like a great wind in the mind of the king. One part of him loves and respects, one part of him is in deep doubt. Sahara looked directly and he said, so the king thinks of Sara in many ways, although one man. Although Sara is one man, I am just like the full moon, but the lake is in turmoil. So please, if you want to understand me, there is no way to understand me directly. The only way to understand me is to stop this wind which is blowing on the surface of your mind. Let your consciousness be at ease. Then see. Let all those waves and the rollers stop. Let your consciousness be a placid pool, and then you see. I cannot convince you of what is happening unless you're able to see it. It is happening, it is here. I am standing before you. I am one man, but I can see in you. You are looking at me as if I'm 1,000 men. To a fool who squints, a lamp is as two. Where seen and seer are not two are the mind. Words are the thingness of them both. And then he takes similar metaphors. First he says, like a lake, you're in turmoil. Then he says, to a fool who squints one lamp is as two. He cannot see one, he sees two. I have heard. Mullah Nusradin was searching his son the ways of being a drunkard. After a few drinks, Mullah said, now let us go. Always remember, this is a rule to stop when you start seeing that one person is looking like two. Then go home, it is enough. One person looking like two, but the son asked, where? Where is that one person? Mullah said, look, there are two persons sitting at that table. And the son replied, there is nobody. He had already drunk too much. Remember, when you are unconscious, things don't look as they are. When you are unconscious, you project. Tonight, looking at the moon, you can press your eye with your finger, and you can see two moons. And when you are seeing two moons, it is difficult to believe that there is one. You are seeing two. Just think, somebody is born with a natural beauty. His eyes has that pressure which makes one thing look like two. He will always see two things. Whenever you see one, he will see two. Our inner vision is clouded with many things. So we go on seeing things which are not. And when we see, how can we believe that they are not? We have to trust our own eyes, and our own eyes may be distorting. To a fool who squints, one lamp is as two. Where seen and seer are not two. Sahara says to the king, if you are thinking I and you are two, then you are the unconscious, then you are a fool, then you are drunk, then you don't know how to see. If you are really see, then I and you are one, then the seer and the seen are not two. Then you will not see Sahara dancing here, you will see yourself dancing here. Then when I go into ecstasy, you will go into ecstasy, and that will be the only way to know what has happened to Sahara. There is no other way. What has happened to me? You want to know, the only way is to become a participant in my being. Don't be a watcher. Don't stand aside and just become a spectator. You will have to participate in my experiences. You will have to lose yourself a little bit into me. You will have to overlap my boundaries. That's what Samyas is all about. You start coming closer. You start losing your boundaries into me. Only then, one day, through participation, when you fall in rapport with me, something will be seen, something will be understood, and you will not be able to convince anybody else who has just been a spectator, because your visions will be different. You have participated, and he has only been observing. You are living in two different worlds. Through the incense lamps have been lit. Though the incense lamps have been lit. Listen to the beautiful song of Sahara. Though the incense lamps have been lit, the blind live on in the dark. Through spontaneity is self-encompassing and close. To the divided, it remains always far away. He says, look, I have become enlightened. Through the incense lamps have been lit. My innermost core is no longer dark. See, there is great light in me. My soul is awakened. I am no more the same Raul you used to know. I am Sarah. My arrow has reached the target. Though the house lamps have been lit, the incense lamps have been lit, the blind live Though the incense lamps have been lit, the blind live on in the dark. But what can I do? Sahara says. If somebody is blind, even when the house lamps are lit. Oh god, travel right. Okay. Okay, the house lamps are lit. He goes on living in darkness. Not the lamps are missing, but his eyes are closed. So don't listen to blind people. Just open your eyes and look at me. See me. Who is standing in front of you? Whom you are confronting. The blind live on in the dark, though the house lamps have been lit. True spontaneity is all-encompassing and closed, and I am so close to you. The spontaneity is so close to you. You can already touch it and eat it and drink it. You can dance with me, and you can move into ecstasy with me. I am so close. You may not feel spontaneity so close again. To the offended, it remains always far away. Or to the deluded, it remains always far away. They talk about samatha and they read the Pantapali Sutras. They talk about great things, but whenever the great things happen, they are against it. This is something very strange about man. Man is a very strange animal. You can appreciate Buddha, but if Buddha comes and just confronts you, you will not be able to appreciate him at all. You may go against him. You may become the enemy. Why? When you read a book about Buddha, everything is okay. The book is in your hand. When an alive Buddha has to be confronted, he is not in your hand. You are falling into his hands. Hence the fear, resistance one wants to escape. And the best way to escape is to convince yourself that he has gone wrong. Something is wrong with him. That is the only way, if you prove to yourself that he is wrong. And you can find 1,001 things in a Buddha which can look wrong because you are squinting and you are blind and your mind is in turmoil. You can project anything. Now this man has attained to Buddhahood, and they are talking among the low caste of women. They have not looked into that woman's reality. They have only been thinking that she is an arrowsmith woman. So low caste, Sudra, untouchable. How can a Brahmin touch an untouchable woman? How can the Brahmin live there? And they have heard that the woman cooks food for him. This is a great sin. This is a great fall. A Brahmin eating food cooked by a Sudra, by an untouchable, by a low caste woman. And why should a Brahmin live on the cremation ground? Brahmins have never lived there. They live in the temples. They live in the palaces. Why on the cremation ground? Dirty place, skulls and dead bodies all around. This is perversion. But they have not looked into the fact that unless you understand death, you'll never be able to understand life. When you have looked deep into death and found that life is never dead, when you have penetrated deep into death and found that life continues even after death, that death makes no difference, that death is immaterial. You don't know anything about life. Life is eternal, timeless. So only for the body dies, so only the dead dies. The alive continues. But for this, one has to go into deep experimentation. They will not look at that. Now that they have heard that he is going into strange practices, they must have gossiped and exaggerated. Things must have gone out of their hands. Everybody goes on multiplying the gossip. And there are Tantra practices which can be gossiped about. In Tantra, the man sits in front of the woman, the naked woman, and he has to watch her so deeply to see her through and through that all desires to see a woman naked disappears. Then man is free from the form. Now this is a great secret technique. Otherwise you go on continuously seeing her in your mind. Each woman that passes by on the road, you want to undress her, that is there. Now suddenly you see Sahara sitting before a naked woman. How will you interpret? You will interpret according to yourself. You will say, so, okay, what we always wanted to do, he is doing. So we are better than him. At least we are not doing it. Of course, we visualize sometimes, but it is only in thought, not in deed. He has fallen, and you will not miss the opportunity. But what is he really doing? Is it a secret science? By watching for months together, the tantrika will watch the woman meditate on her body form, meditate on her beauty, will look at everything whatsoever he wants to look at. Breasts have some appeal. He will look and meditate on the breasts. He has to get rid of the form, and the only way to get rid of the form is to know it so deeply that he has no attraction anymore. Now something just the opposite is happening from what the gossipers are saying. He is going beyond. Never again will he want to undress a woman, not even in the mind, not even in a dream. That obsession will not be there, but the crowd, the mob, has its own ideas. Ignorant, unaware, they go on talking about things. So, those spontaneity is all-encompassing and close. To the deluded it remains always far away. Though there may be many rivers, they are one in the sea. Though there are many lies, one truth will conquer all. When one sun appears, the dark, however deep, will vanish. And Sahara says, just look at me, the sun has risen. So I know howsoever deep your dark, it is going to vanish. Look at me, the truth is born in me. You may have heard thousands of lies about me, but one truth will conquer them all. Though there may be many rivers, they are ones in the sea. Just come close to me, let your river drop into my ocean, and you will have my taste. Though there may be many lies, one truth will conquer all. Truth is a one. Only lies are many. Only lies can be many. Truth cannot be many. Health is one, diseases are many. One health conquers all diseases, and one truth conquers all lies. When one sun appears, the dark, however deep, will vanish. In these 4 verses, Sahara has invited the king to enter into his inner being. He has opened his heart, and he says, I am not here to convince you logically. I am here to convince you existentially. I will not give any proof, and I will not say anything in defense of myself. The heart is just open. You come in, you go in, you see what has happened. So close to spontaneity, so close to God, so close to truth. The sun has risen. Open your eyes. Remember, a mystic has no proof. He cannot have any proof by the very nature of things. He is the only proof. So he can bare his heart to you. These verses, these songs of Sahara, have to be meditated on deeply. Each song can become the opening of a flower in your heart. I hope these 40 verses will become 40 flowers in your being, so they become in the being of the king. The king was liberated, so can you be. Sahara has penetrated the target. You can also penetrate the target. You can also become Sahara, one whose arrow is shot. Enough for today. Wow. Okay, over these 6 episodes, you have experienced chapter 1 of the Tantra experience. So we will continue with chapter 2. Let me leave you with the beginning. Is there any difference between the approaches of Shiva and Sara towards Tantra? I always agree with whatsoever you say. Then why is my life most not changing? Wasn't I happier when I thought there was a goal? Isn't Tantra a way of indulgence? Something consensual is missing. What is wrong with me? How do you define a good speech? We will explore chapter 2 later. Take care and blessed be. Don't forget to check the links below, check the links on my channel, like, subscribe and ring a bell when you know the next video is out. Take care. Blessed be.